The cold salt water hit like a slap to the face. Lieutenant Harrington staggered forward as waves crashed around his thighs, the weight of his gear pulling him down. Gunfire cracked above, a relentless cacophony of bullets zipping past. Around him, men floundered in the surf, some screaming, some eerily silent as they fell into the sea. "Move, move. Get off the beach," Harrington shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. Private Russo splashed beside him, his helmet askew, eyes wide with terror. "Lieutenant, I." A sharp whizzing sound cut Russo off, and he dropped, a lifeless heap in the frothy water. Harrington froze for a fraction of a second, his stomach lurching. "Not now. Keep moving. Forward," Harrington yelled, waving his arm. "Get to the seawall." The men pushed ahead, the beach stretching out like a killing field. Puffs of sand and debris exploded around them as German machine guns rained fire from the cliffs above. The smell of salt and gunpowder mixed with the stench of blood. Sergeant Carter was already ahead, pulling a wounded soldier out of the surf. "Jenkins is hit," he bellowed. "Leave him," someone shouted from behind. "Not on my watch," Carter snarled, hoisting Jenkins over his shoulder and trudging forward. The platoon reached a patch of partial cover, a scattering of steel obstacles planted in the sand. Harrington crouched behind a jagged metal frame, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Bullets ricocheted off the obstacle, the sound like angry hornets. "Roll call," he barked. One by one, voices called back, some confident, some weak. "Green, Anders, Carter, too many names missing." Harrington's chest tightened. "Lieutenant." Carter crawled over, his face streaked with grime. "We're pinned here. We need smoke or some damn air support, or we're not getting off this beach." Harrington scanned the chaos. The landing craft behind them were still unloading men, but many were being cut down before they could even reach the shore. Explosions from mortar shells punctuated the air, sending men and debris flying. "We push to the seawall," Harrington said, forcing steel into his voice. "We regroup there and figure out the next move." Carter nodded grimly. "Copy that." Harrington turned to Green. "Joker, you've got the smoke grenades. Pop them on my signal. Anders, cover fire. Everyone else on me." The men nodded, their faces pale but determined. "On three," Harrington said, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. 1, 2, 3. Green hurled 2 smoke grenades, the canisters hissing as they released thick white clouds. Anders opened fire, his rifle cracking in quick succession. Harrington surged forward, leading the charge. The smoke offered some concealment, but the Germans kept firing, their bullets ripping through the haze. A mortar shell exploded nearby, knocking Harrington off his feet. He hit the ground hard, his ears ringing. Sand rained down, and for a moment, all he could hear was a high-pitched whine. "Lieutenant." "Get up." Carter's voice cut through the noise. Harrington groaned, pushing himself upright. His helmet was dented, but he was alive. Carter grabbed his arm, hauling him to his feet. They reached the seawall, a jagged line of concrete and stone that offered some respite from the slaughter. A handful of soldiers huddled there, their faces gaunt. "We made it," Green panted, collapsing against the wall. "Barely," Harrington said, his voice grim. He scanned the men, counting heads. There were fewer than he'd hoped. "Where's Anders?" Carter asked. Harrington looked back toward the beach. Through the smoke, he could see Anders lying motionless, his rifle still clutched in his hands. A knot formed in his throat, but he forced it down. "We keep moving," Harrington said, his tone hard. "The mission doesn't stop here." Carter gave him a long look, but didn't argue. Harrington peered over the seawall, his binoculars shaky in his hands. The German defenses were formidable concrete bunkers with machine guns and artillery raining hell down on the beach. Getting past them seemed impossible, but they had no choice. "All right, here's the plan," Harrington said, turning back to the men. "We divide into 2 groups. Carter, you lead one and flank the nearest bunker from the left. I'll take the other group and hit it head-on. Once we're inside, we take out their guns and signal the others to push forward." Greenie snorted. "Head-on? You trying to get yourself killed, LT?" Harrington gave him a thin smile. "Not today, Joker." The men nodded, steeling themselves. They were battered, bruised, and terrified, but the determination in their eyes was unmistakable. "Move out," Harrington ordered. And with that, they climbed over the seawall and into the firestorm once more, breaching the fortress. Hey. The seawall loomed behind them, a rare line of safety they just left. Lieutenant Harrington led his group low and fast across the sand, the German machine guns roaring again as the smoke began to dissipate. Bullets chewed into the beach, kicking up sprays of sand and rock. Ahead, the bunker stood like a fortress, its concrete walls unyielding against the naval barrage. Harrington knew the odds were slim, but they had to act. If they didn't silence those guns, Every wave of men behind him would be mowed down. "Keep moving," Harrington shouted, his voice raw. Greenie, true to his nickname Joker, called out from behind. "You sure this isn't a prank, LT? Feels like a bad one. Save the jokes for after, Green." Harrington snapped, but a small part of him appreciated the levity. Carter's group peeled off to the left, disappearing into a rocky crevice to flank the bunker. Harrington pressed forward with his men, staying low as the gunfire intensified. Ahead, a barbed wire barrier stretched across their path, a deadly tangle designed to slow them down. "Jenkins, get that Bangalore up here," Harrington yelled. Jenkins, bloody but determined, crawled forward, dragging the explosive charge. "On it, sir," he grunted. The others provided covering fire, their rifles barking toward the bunker's narrow-firing slits. It felt futile. Bullets pinged harmlessly off the concrete walls, but it kept the Germans' heads down long enough for Jenkins to set the charge. "Fire in the hole," Jenkins shouted, retreating as fast as he could. The Bangalore exploded with a deafening roar, shredding the barbed wire and opening a path through the barrier. Harrington didn't wait. "Go, go, go," he bellowed, charging forward. The men followed, adrenaline overriding their fear. They reached the bunker's outer wall and pressed against it, panting for breath. The German guns above them couldn't depress far enough to hit them now, but they were far from safe. Harrington pointed to the narrow entrance on the side. "Joker, you're on point. Jenkins, follow him. The rest of you, stack up behind me." Green gave a mock salute, his usual smirk replaced by a grim determination. "Let's do this." They moved in a tight line along the wall, rifles raised. The air inside the bunker was thick with the acrid stench of gunpowder and sweat. Darkness enveloped them, broken only by the intermittent flash of muzzle fire. Green turned the corner into the main corridor and immediately ducked as a German soldier fired, the bullet grazing the wall inches from his head. "Contact," he yelled, firing back. Jenkins pushed forward, lobbing a grenade down the hall. The explosion shook the walls, and the gunfire momentarily ceased. "Clear it out," Harrington ordered. They advanced methodically, stepping over debris and bodies. The deeper they pushed, the more desperate the German defenders became. One soldier leaped from a side room, his bayonet aimed at Harrington's chest. Harrington barely reacted in time, swinging his rifle like a club and knocking the man to the ground. Green finished him off with a quick shot. "Nice reflexes, LT," Green muttered, reloading his rifle. "Keep your eyes open," Harrington replied, his breath ragged. They reached the heart of the bunker, a room filled with ammunition and communications equipment. 2 German soldiers manned a machine gun, their faces pale with panic as they turned to face the intruders. Harrington fired first, his shot dropping one of them. Jenkins followed up, silencing the other. "Area secure," Jenkins called. Harrington quickly assessed the room. Maps and radios cluttered a central table. He grabbed one of the radios, speaking into it in broken German. "All clear," he said, mimicking a calm tone. It might buy them a few minutes before reinforcements came. "Carter, report." Harrington spoke into his own radio now. Carter's voice crackled back. "We've breached the left side. Guns are down, but we're taking heavy fire from the second bunker." "Copy that." "Hold your position," Harrington replied. He turned to his men. "We're not done yet. Green, plant the charges on their munitions. The rest of you, gather anything useful. We regroup with Carter and 5. Green worked quickly, placing explosives on the bunker's ammunition stockpile. As he finished, he gave a thumbs up. "Charges set. Let's get out of here." They filed out, retreating the way they came. Harrington's hand lingered on the detonator in his pocket, his mind racing. They reached the bunker's exterior just as a fresh wave of German troops arrived from the cliffs above. "Contact ahead," Green shouted, firing. The firefight erupted again, bullets flying in every direction. Harrington dove behind cover, his heart pounding. He grabbed the detonator and yelled, "Fire in the hole." The explosion behind them was deafening. The bunker erupted in a plume of fire and smoke, the shockwave knocking German soldiers off their feet. Harrington's group seized the moment, pressing forward and breaking through the enemy line. They reached Carter's position, battered but alive. Carter grinned through bloodied teeth. "About time, Lieutenant." "Let's finish this," Harrington said, his voice cold with resolve. The men advanced together, their numbers fewer but their spirits unbroken. They pushed toward the second bunker, their mission clear: take the beach, no matter the cost.